Olaron, the final pick there for Ghost, in for Captain Twig in the mid lane. Is that the type of team fight presence that you think Ghost might have been lacking?
I think it's going to be a huge tool here for sure, just that no-play zone inside of the
on these drafts that we were just looking at here, Gore. We are indeed moving right into the action. Yarkor is still one of the few people out there playing Cthulhu over there in the solo. Wrong You with Mulan support, an Anubis band.
Pay attention to in this. But I think Wrong You gives me more of a factor into Sanguine's win potential than what you see out of Panatom.
Sam makes his way over, driving strike pins the Mulan up against the wall, and Sam able to find the first blood for Ghost. And this is what not just a Wheelish, but Sam in particular can do, as they are indeed able to strip away the purple buff as well. Goes for the solo invade on red. That does not work. But at the very least, Ghost pressure on right nets them the blue buff invade. Twig taking some dangerous pathing underneath with no backup from Sam, as they've gone back to get the kill on the Yarkor, who's in some trouble. Sam for Sucker finds two already here for Ghost in the early game.
You know, there's a lot of things. Yarkor was one of those more successful solo laners. I just don't know if I'm fully convinced and sold on it again, because it has not been successful as of late.
Hasn't, as Sam is again getting aggressive in mid, looking perhaps for some kind of gank, but a Panatom Wrong You goes in with the ultimate and is now a sitting duck in the backline. That's free for Mike to clean up. Sanctified Fuel from Twig is what guarantees
starting to approach the point where we can start saying 3,000, they're 2,300 total. That's insane farm for 8.5 minutes in.
Twig under a ton of pressure in mid, though. Grasp of Death plus Panatom means there's no way out of there for the mid laner for Ghost Gaming. So Sanguine get their first kill on the board, as feels more defensive than anything. Certainly not going to get a kill, but there's also action in mid. Wrong You steps forward. Polar Bear Mike also steps forward. Look for the pull onto Panatom. Does bring him in, but does not get the beads out from him. He used the dash instead. But Sam rotating back in, and Wrong You isolated. Good ultimate. Gets him out of the Sanctified Field, but roots him next to Sam, who happily takes the kill. And now they're looking to lock down Panatom, who has already used the beads. Barely gets out of there as Ghost are rotating around the map, hungry for fights.
And that's just unfortunate for Wrong You, because he's in a position where that's the only way to get out of here, much like Netruloid is in a bad position. With Panatom rotating in, they might be able to at least save his life, but turning it around, I don't know. PBM's in the neighborhood.
But the Grasp of Death from Shinto gets the return kill onto Panda Cat, almost from Mike, enough to keep Panda Cat alive. I just think Netroid did a good job of kind of baiting Panda Cat in with Panatom on the way. So it ends up being 1-for-1 jungle for Hunter Gore. Which way do you think that ends up falling in favor?
I feel like it hurts Ghost a little bit. I mean, there's a 2-level difference there between Panatom and Panda Cat. And so getting rid of Panatom, maybe not really much for Ghost Gaming. Picking up Panda Cat at least is going to get Shinto some farm that he's needed. Unfortunately for Sanguine, any amount of farm, any kills you get do seem to get nullified by then another flurry of kills that come through. Although Yarkor just defended himself, I think not only turning it around onto Sam, but slowing FinoK down.
Yeah, in the 1v2, Yarkor able to get the kill. The tower was at like 1 HP. Why did they not put any damage into it? And now FinoK narrowly avoiding the mire coming out from Yarkor. Yeah, so able to narrowly. It has been a rough game for him so far, as Wrong You perhaps exemplifying that. Has to use the ultimate defensively, and I think he wants that ult later, as Wrong You now being cut down by FinoK, who just doesn't have the damage. Great blink from Wrong You, and he makes it out, but now Panatom is the target. Boulder comes through, but doesn't get a lot of damage as FinoK is low. Sanguine go for the knockup. FinoK in some trouble, but Yarkor swaps targets back towards Twig, stuck in the middle of everybody, but in comes Panatom, but the Sanctified Field's even better. Put down the Nemesis in favor of Ghost, and Polar Bear Mike once more blinking in, looking for the knockup, can't find it. Driving Strike lets him reposition, but they pull in Panda Cat, who's also in trouble. Sanguine, they may be on the back foot, but they're certainly fighting back, and Shinto gets the first kill as Sam comes back in as well and trades his life.
Alright, so there were a lot of moments in that where Ghosts were winning, and so heavily. I mean, it felt like a Predator playing with their food.
Ultimates up, then you've got to think Ghosts are heavily favored, even into some of these CC immunities. Sam takes the battle up against Panatom in right, has to leap away, but Panatom now heavily isolated. Sanctified Field clips him a little bit, and it does speed Twig up, but it's another one of those ultimates that have a bit of a question mark on him. Sam blinks in to secure it, and no way for Panatom to make it out of it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that Sanctified Field's largely unnecessary. You know, like you said, it speeds Twig up, and maybe that helps close the gap, but he doesn't get a lot of damage there at the very end. Sam and his Blink do find that kill. And it showcases another thing that, you know, even though Sam has a substantial lead and has been doing well, Panatom can still win 1v1s. It's just so hard to find a 1v1 right now.
Yarkor and Rongyu force Ghost off of the Fire Giant for now. It is still leashed, though, and low. Finally gets reset as the Grasp of Death comes from the fight, but poor Rongyu is absolutely in the wrong neighborhood. Sam for Sucker takes care of him to improve to 6 total kills. They push Yarkor back, and that's another kill for Ghost. Fine, okay, wants to get involved. His first kill of the game. Meanwhile, Netroid does split push the tier 2 tower in left as Ghost start up the Fire Giant. It looks like they'll send Fine, okay back to make sure they do not lose a Phoenix, but this FG belongs to Ghost.
And that, honestly, that's standard Sanguine. I can't count how many times we have seen them. You have an avenue to success. You can break down that Phoenix and go into the Titan room. So they give themselves win conditions, even when it feels like everything is falling apart.
Poor Rongyu, he was the one that got singled out and pulled in by Mike. On the tail end of that ultimate, he does end up standing still, but in comes Yarkor and the rest of the boys to back up Sanguine. Yarkor on the ultimate does push out a couple, but Rongyu gets pulled back towards the rest of the team. Good ultimate, though, from Shinto. Keeps Rongyu alive. Mike gets traded out for Yarkor, and Rongyu, who's already in Grayscale, finally gets pushed all the way to the other side into the afterlife, and Ghost come away with the 2-1, only trading away their Hercules. Out of the frying pan into the fire. He ulted out of one of Twig's ult and laid it right next to Sam, who promptly deleted him. So it's tough. It really feels like they haven't quite gotten to the support, but Yarkor is going in, starting up the ultimate. They want this fight, and this feels so ill-advised, but perhaps they can find a way to turn it around. Is scattered. Panatom in trouble, though, in the middle of the fight. Twig putting in plenty of damage, but they able to chase down Panatom, able to chase down Shinto as well, who's still doing damage to the grave, able to find a Grasp of Death, but now Yarkor, who has de-transformed, gets stunned out by Fine OK, and Pandacat claims him. Mike elsewhere hunts down Netroid, and that is it. Take us on to game number 2, because Ghost just took care of Sanguine.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and steal the term you had used coming into, or out of that last set, and Mifflin had used. That was just clinical. I mean, it was like a checklist there for Ghost Gaming. They knew what they wanted to do. They're ending this with a 15,000 gold lead. A lot of it early on was, wait, Rongyu's going to be a problem. Cool, let's isolate the problem. They killed him off more than anybody else in the game.
Still don't know if that RDO is going to be support or solo lane. Don't think we have to wait too long, though. Game number 2 should be ready to go. Sanguine looking to bounce back up against Ghost.
They have a lot of bouncing back to do, because boy did they fall in that first game. Ghost made it look easy, taking down one of our other most competitive teams here in Sanguine, but they are in the middle here at this point to see how it goes. I mean, Pandacat and Mike last time around with that Hercules took control. Now Rongyu gets a chance to show us what he can do on a little bit of a more consistent pick, as Twig is in trouble in mid. Panatom hunts him down, and Sanguine already answering back here in game number 1.
Get out of here. I'm going to throw my ult this way so I can run away from Sanguine. And then almost immediately, it looks like they could have benefited if they had turned it around and then gotten aggressive into Sanguine.
Panatom do get aggressive. That's Captain Twig down. Boulder plus Shinto to lead Sam for Sucker in mid as well. And this is all off that pressure in solo, off the ultimate from Twig being down. Their lead in solo will lead in the jungle. I think there's a larger lead in mid than it looks like when Shinto levels up. Things are starting to become a problem as Panatom has to get out of there. 2-man stun, though, from Yarkor on the top. Sanctified Field does catch 3 members, and Panatom is low as Fine OK gets 1. But Shinto, not to be trifled with, gets a kill in return. Sam, who closes the gap, cuts down the Thoth. Mike tries to come back in to help, but he's so low at this point that he might just be throwing himself away as Rongyu takes care of Fine OK easily.
And unfortunately, Pandacat able to get out the Bifrost, saving the day this time around. 2 for 2 at the end of the day. And you have to question, honestly, Twig had a phenomenal ult there. And I want to say, even though he goes down, it's worth, like, it feels weird to say that because he's 0 and 3. He's 2 levels down compared to Shinto sitting there at level 12. But I think he's just going to continue scaling well. Even though he's only level 12, he's now got that Telkine's ring online. Technically, I believe, helping out, or not helping out.
Ghost could be right here for the next time it gets pulled, which could be any time.
Well, with the Blink forward, I mean, PM just goes in and gets a huge stun.
And it works! Wrong You gets deleted! Fine OK takes the kill credit as Mike barely makes it out of there alive. Fine OK is low too, but they can't chase through the sanctified field. Sam cuts down your core, and Sanguine are left scratching their heads. Mike finds a
then collapse in on. Fine OK started smacking that Fire Giant. I think this is just to try and pull someone like Wrong You into the fight.
Well, they just did the heat check. They know for sure they can kill this guy if they get the CC, but not as cleanly this time around. So Shinto plant in the back. They do eventually get the kill on the Wrong You. That's Sam that gets the kill credit, and Sanguine don't seem to have an answer, but a great stun comes through. Fine OK falls, and Netrioid is able to get one in return. So solo for support, but Panatom still stepping forward, looking for PandaCat, who has the beads. Ultimate disengage, and that leaves Mike on a bit of an island. Chasing him out is Panatom, but cannot catch up. Ghost at least make it 1-for-1, but I think Sanguine are the better looking team on the back of it, and now they're going to start up FG.
Twig, though, has Sanctified Field. Sam's in the neighborhood. I think they still have enough to contest this if you're Ghost, but you don't have PBM, you don't have Fine OK, so you're going into it kind of blind.
And they just draw them in perfectly. What a play from Sanguine as they step up topside, collapse, and get the 2-for-1 in their favor. Yes, they do end up losing Panatom on the back end, but they can still come back towards fire and start it up. They don't have to worry about Sanctified Field this time, and no ultimates available for Sam or Mike, obviously, on the stance changer. But Sanguine dropped the objective for now. I don't know if they're ready to start it up.
The biggest highlight through all of this, because it's about to come back up, is that final judgment for Shinto. Mike, though, is in this area. I guess just gotta keep my eyes on him because he has that potential to run in and take this. They're not stopping him and they're not killing him just yet. And that Fire Giant's getting lower and lower. If it takes about 10 more seconds, they could even steal it and get it onto the side of Twig.
Well, Sam comes to the back of the find and just gets deleted. He was trying to do the low side gank, but that didn't work. So Sanguine can stick the objective. But now this conveyor belt for Sanguine isn't working. Fire Giant low, and Sanguine barely get it. Shinto from downtown told them to stick it. I got the final judgment, and Sanguine confirmed the objective. Polar Bear Mike barely survives, but that leaves Fine OK right in the thick of everything. Mike wants to help, but there is no helping here. Fine OK pays his life, and Sanguine gets the objective.
Too low to continue that aggression. That's when Sanguine really start to aggress forward, take over the Fire Giant pit, and Ghost are left in that decision. PBM backs, but they can't leave the Fire Giant pit alone. And unfortunately now it just feels like they're in complete disarray. I mean, no one's over there with Twig. I don't know what he was hoping to accomplish. Maybe get a little bit of farm online, but he's 0-5 and 6, and I think Sanguine
if the teleport off in time to show up near Sam. They don't even want to give up the mid-tier 1 tower to Sam at this point. So Sam drops the ultimate, looks to the 1v1 up against Yarkor, and is actually winning it, but Yarkor has backup on the way. Panatom and Netroid all on their way to help out. Meanwhile, perhaps they have to trade out Wrong You to make it happen. Final Judgment hits 3 again. Shinto with the invade and punish deletes PandaCat, and Wrong You manages to live through it all, as does Yarkor. So Sanguine again able to get the better of Ghost by spreading the map.
You stay alive if you're Sanguine, you've killed off Twig, you just get the better of kill someone faster. Fine OK can slow them down, but it really is Twig that is the turnaround potential for this team, and they're going to have to be careful with Wrong You getting a pluck like that.
Well, Fine OK in trouble right away. Final Judgment doesn't land on him. I think it went for PandaCat instead, who is low. Yarkor ultimate forces out Beads as Panatom gets the kill onto Fine. Sanctified Field does lock down Yarkor for a moment, but great control from Wrong You. Are you kidding me? As he keeps 2 into the air. That sets up Panatom for the triple kill, and Ghost Gaming gonna have to go back to the drawing board. No way they can close this one out from this point as Sanguine start to barrel forward to end game 2 and force a game 3. Sam comes in from behind to help, but the Titans starting to buckle down below half, down below a quarter. Panatom adds on a 4th as Sanguine win game number 2.
Effing chat for Sam for Soccer's
get to
win.
maneuver around the map and continually force that lead even further on. But if we see both teams kind of stagnate until level 5, or if Ghost pulls a lead, I think that's really where they're going to shine.
Thanks, Aggro and Myth. Man, that Aggro guy's kind of underrated, huh? This should be a huge last game, though, between Ghost and Sanguine. 2 top 4 teams.
Just so impactful on this god. Netroid, Wrong You, right back to where they know they're going to find control, and Yarkor where he's found success last game. Unless PBM can keep up that pressure, I don't know if it's going to go well.
Well, some trouble for Wrong You over in left. PandaCat and Mike working together and able to find that first blood. Ghost on the board first, and maybe even another one. Netroid has to use speeds. Good knock-up, but the Heart Bomb stun is there. Mike steps into the tower and could end up paying for it. Just barely lives, as does Netroid.
I won't be surprised if Sanguine, after that first blood, have to actually play it safe and slow in the duo lane, even though this Hercules wants more.
Great response from Mike. Rongu gets hit by the Heart Bomb and makes sure Mike stays close. There is a gank coming. Panatom loops underneath. Good dash from Panda Cat. Allows him to reposition. They got the knock-up. In comes Netroid, and Panda Cat can't juke enough. Good response from Sanguine as Panatom came in, but Sam Soccer lumbering his way in late. Twig rotating across the at the top. Ghost could be able to find some kind of return. He finds the Whirlpool. That slows down Netroid, but not really much coming there.
It looked like it could have been so much. A good push from PBM, a good gank from Twig. Sanguine just find themselves in a good spot. Now PBM, kind of the opposite. That's the second time he's gone under that tower, and the second time he's walked out with his life.
And Sam stripped away the purple. Now Mike is in some trouble. Rotation in from Shinto, and Mike is certainly dead here. She gets the kill credit for it.
Looking specifically towards the later game, or the later in the week, right? It's been Knights and Sanguine that are at the top of the conversation. Sanguine really need this win.
Oh, again, they gotta hope they don't need Wrong You, because my man got deleted. Panatom ends up catching the hands from Polar Bear. Mike drops down, spins, got the gun.
You see the Kraken, and you see nothing big coming out from them. Maybe you don't drop the Fear No Evil in that fight. You just hold on to that one, take the L, and wait for the next one.
They defended their blue, which I guess was all they wanted, as Mike now in some trouble. Pulled back in by Wrong You Boulder there too. But Fear No Evil into Panatom kept him out of this little engagement. Is able to make it back towards his friends though. Should be able to hunt down Mike. Nice cleave auto off the back of that Volcanic Lightning. I think Solo, they head over to left and steal the gold. That's the red buff invaded. Mike elects to take it. Perhaps he's the only one safe enough to stick around. But that is the red buff around a Kuzenbo who's ready to party. Shinto has already used the flicker, so Fine OK says, yeah, you're free food. That means Mike gets to gobble him up. Red buff well used, and Tier 1 tower will be claimed. Now Fine OK slowly running away on Cthulhu. How often do you see Cthulhu in the ult running for dear life?
Yeah, I love what Fine OK does, because he goes big, and 3 people are chasing him down. Like you said, Cthulhu's not going to run often, but 3 people's enough to make you get out of there. But now they're locking down Wrong You.
I'm sorry, Gore, I want your analysis, but
7,000 gold, 7,400, almost 7,500 experience. You've got a massive lead in pretty much every regard you need to.
Fine, okay. You hate this old joke, but is he fine? Let's find out. Has been locked down. Big Fear No Evil, though, from Sam on the back. Not enough to save his solo laner, and now Sam is the one in trouble. Wrong You trying to catch up to him, but Twig is taking care of Panatom. Netroid cleans up that kill into the low HP Sam. Nene doesn't quite catch up to Shinto. Now it does, so perhaps they can close that gap. But Sanguine somehow managed to find themselves a 2-for-1 by picking off one more member. But now your core caught in the field of love. Panda Cat might be able to net them a return kill. They end up getting the enemy solo, so it ends up being solo jungle for solo jungle, and Ghost managed to even it out. When I know who needs a Poseidon for your Fire Giants, they'll just start it up with Sam and Fine OK anyway. Polar Mike coming across the top to look for a little bit of peel. I wonder if this is just to force it in, but look at this Twig! Not here for the Fire Giant, but he's in trouble. Took some damage as showed up over there, did Panatom and the boys. Now they'll lock down your core here near the Fire Giant instead. Panda Cat gets that kill, and I guess they'll have Twig trying to defend that left Tier 1.
I mean, it's the best way to counter it. As weird as it is, this is a strategy, again, Sanguine love to do. If you're going to lose the Fire Giant fight, win somewhere else, but if you can't win because Poseidon's going to clear better than you, you can't do much. Panatom can't even engage in there because the Kraken's going to be so strong. Giant.
Mike is on the aggressive zone. They bring the objective down to half HP. Yarkor's on the way, as is Shinto, but just no chance. Go secure the objective. They don't have the Kraken for this next little fight, but they might not need it, as they're all able to blink in. Fear No Evil does get the relics out from Shinto. Yarkor gets separated, and this Merlin has nowhere to run. Mike keeps him locked down. Fine OK provides the damage, and that's one more pick for Ghost.
Well, Yarkor, you know, I think at the end of the day, can run away from this as long as he wants, although running into minions might end up helping Sam, who has a level up on the solo laner. How often do you get to see that when the jungler has a lead overall? Yarkor finally ticks over to 18. But let's be honest, this is just buying time, and Yarkor's so separated from the team, they're in a 3v4 over there on that Phoenix, which maybe isn't going perfectly for Ghost, but it's opening up the conversation to continue.
It's not an awful time. It's a 4-1 split with Sam looping around the top side to contest and maybe see if he can blink in the back. He does.
That's so
Fear the Weasel
good.
hits everybody. Netroid and Shinto, that's the backline damage removed by the jungler working with Mike. That makes it easy for the front line of Ghost to take care of the front line of Sanguine. Panda Cat gets to the heart bomb, lives through it cleanly. That's a D aside. What's set 3 for the day because we are done with set 2. Ghost take care of Sanguine.
That, I don't think I've ever seen the heart bombs be that just upsetting to watch on one side. Wrong you so close,
Couldn't let
ready
Wrong
to
get
try and
one.
get the